Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me.
This time we're diving into The Way of Peace by James Allen,
Oh, yeah.
a spiritual guide promising some serious wisdom on finding inner peace.
It is quite a book.
I'm already intrigued by some of these chapter titles,
Yeah.
like The Two Masters, Self and Truth, and Entering into the Infinite.
Right.
It sounds like we're in for quite a journey.
It's definitely not your typical self-help book.
Oh,
Alan goes beyond just vague advice and actually gives a structured approach to inner transformation.
interesting.
Almost like a step-by-step guide.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, he emphasizes the power of meditation.
Yes, he does.
But he's not talking about the kind of meditation where you just zone out for a few minutes on your lunch break.
Right.
He describes it as the pathway to divinity,
That's true.
a way to actually become like that which you focus your thoughts on. Now, that's a powerful concept.
It really is.
Yeah.
He even compares meditation to prayer, saying meditation is to prayer what a soul is to a body.
Interesting.
So it's not just about asking for things,
Right.
but about deeply connecting with a higher power or principle,
Okay.
and through that connection, transforming yourself.
So it's about more than just relaxation or stress relief.
Exactly.
Okay.
Alan argues that consistent meditation can lead to some pretty incredible benefits.
Like,
Wisdom, purity,
hmm,
and a deeper understanding of truth.
that makes sense.
And he's not just talking theory here either.
Wow.
He points to figures like Buddha and Jacob Boehme,
Right.
who managed to fit dedicated spiritual practice into their busy lives.
If they could do it, maybe we can too.
Exactly.
It's easy to think, oh, I'm too busy for all that.
Right.
But Alan seems to be saying that even a few minutes each day can make a difference.
Yeah.
What do you think, listener? Have you ever tried incorporating meditation into your routine?
It's definitely worth considering,
Yeah.
especially since you're interested in efficient learning.
That's true.
Alan actually talks about the 5 great meditations of Buddha:
Oh, yeah.
love, pity, joy, impurity, and serenity.
Wow.
Imagine applying those to your daily life, to
Mhm.
your interactions with others, even to your work.
Right.
Each one offers a different lens for approaching challenges and cultivating a more peaceful, focused state of mind.
That's a great way to connect it to our listeners' goals. Now let's move on to another intriguing concept from Alan.
Okay.
The battle between two masters for control of our souls.
Yes.
The master of self and the master of truth.
This is where Alan's writing gets really vivid.
Okay.
He describes these masters as having very different weapons.
I see.
Self uses passion, pride, vanity, all those ego-driven impulses we're all familiar with. But truth fights with gentleness, patience, purity, and even sacrifice.
Okay, so it's like an epic internal struggle between our lower and higher selves.
Exactly.
Right.
And here's the kicker. Truth doesn't negotiate.
Oh,
It's simply, I.S. Allen writes, there is self and there is truth. Where self is, truth is not. Where truth is, self is not.
wow.
It's a powerful statement about the uncompromising nature of truth.
So how do we know which master we're currently following? Are there any telltale signs?
Allen provides a few clues.
Okay.
He suggests looking at your attitudes towards wealth, power, and praise.
Interesting.
Are you constantly seeking more for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or are you content with what you have?
Right.
Are you driven by ego
Okay.
or by a desire to serve something larger?
He's really pushing us to examine our motivations here.
Absolutely.
It's not just about outward actions, but about the underlying desires that shape our choices.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that true humility, not false modesty, but a genuine recognition that our own opinions aren't the be-all and end-all, is essential for perceiving truth. This reminds me of his idea of moving away from rigid, artificial standards of religion
Okay.
toward a religion of truth.
Well, what does he mean by that? Is he advocating for abandoning all religious traditions?
Not necessarily. He's
Yeah.
pointing to a deeper, more universal way of living based on the principles of love and compassion,
Right.
rather than blindly following dogma.
I see.
In fact, he even suggests that true charity, the kind that comes from a selfless place, is a sign of possessing truth.
Okay, so it's about aligning your actions with your values, not just paying lip service to them.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And that brings us to another key concept: acquiring spiritual power.
Right.
Allen observes that most people seek fleeting things like pleasure, excitement, or novelty instead of pursuing lasting strength and stability.
Okay.
And that's where your desire for efficient learning comes in, listener.
Okay.
Think about it. Wouldn't you agree that understanding underlying principles gives you more lasting knowledge than just memorizing isolated facts?
That's a brilliant connection.
It is, isn't it?
Alan seems to be saying that true power isn't about brute force or domination.
Right.
It's about aligning yourself with unchanging principles and using them as a compass to navigate life's challenges.
Exactly.
Interesting.
He even uses the example of Jesus, who clung to the principle of divine love even in the face of unimaginable suffering.
Powerful.
It's a powerful reminder that true strength lies in our ability to stay true to our values, even when things get tough.
So it's about having that unshakable inner core, that moral compass that guides you even in moments of crisis.
Precisely.
Got it.
Think about a time when you faced a difficult decision, listener. Did you compromise your values? Or did you hold firm to your principles? What was the outcome?
Right.
Alan is urging us to examine those defining moments,
All right.
those crucibles where our true character is revealed.
That's a good point. It's fascinating how Alan connects those moments of testing to the development of spiritual power. He's basically saying that every challenge is an opportunity to strengthen our inner core. But let's shift gears a bit and explore another powerful concept from the book. The realization of selfless love. Alan uses this beautiful image of a divine image within us,
Yeah.
just waiting to be revealed through faith and patience.
It's a lovely analogy, isn't it?
It is.
And what's particularly inspiring is the idea that we all have the potential for this kind of love within us. It's not something reserved for saints or mystics. It's
Right.
part of our very being.
But what exactly does selfless love look like in practice? How is it different from the kind of love we experience in our relationships with family and friends?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Alan describes selfless love as universal and impartial,
Good.
completely free from suffering.
Interesting.
It's not about clinging to specific people or things,
Right.
but about embodying a state of being that embraces the whole.
Okay.
It's a love that goes beyond personal attachments and encompasses everyone and everything.
That sounds incredibly liberating, but also incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to cultivate that kind of all-encompassing love?
Alan acknowledges that it's a process, a journey.
Right.
He sees human love as a stepping stone to divine love. And he even talks about the necessity of passing through suffering to reach a higher level of love.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Have you ever noticed how going through difficult experiences, loss, heartbreak, disappointment, can sometimes open you up to a deeper sense of compassion and empathy?
That's a really interesting perspective.
It is, isn't it?
It's like Alan is saying that even painful experiences can redirect us towards something greater,
Right.
something more enduring.
Exactly.
It reminds me of the idea of post-traumatic growth,
Oh, yeah.
where people actually emerge from trauma with a greater sense of purpose and connection.
Exactly. It's not about glorifying suffering, but recognizing that it can be a catalyst for transformation.
Yeah.
And Alan takes this idea even further by stating that selfless love isn't just a feeling,
Okay.
but a state of knowledge that destroys the belief in evil. Now, that's a concept worth unpacking.
Always just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
How can love actually destroy the belief in evil?
Yeah.
It sounds almost paradoxical.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But think about it this way.
Right.
When we see the world through the lens of selfless love, we start to recognize the interconnectedness of all things. We understand that even those who commit acts of harm are still part of that universal web of being.
So instead of seeing them as separate, as other,
Yeah.
we see them as reflections of ourselves
Right.
as fellow travelers on this journey of life.
Precisely. And that understanding can shift our whole perspective on good and evil.
Interesting.
Instead of judging and condemning, we start to see the underlying causes and conditions that contribute to suffering. We might even find ourselves feeling compassion for those who seem most deserving of our anger or hatred.
It's a radical shift in thinking, for sure. But Alan seems to be saying that it's the key to unlocking a deeper level of peace,
Right.
both within ourselves and in the world around us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this ties in beautifully with the next chapter, entering into the infinite. Here, Alan explores this deep-seated human awareness of the limitations of material existence.
Right.
This yearning for something more, something beyond the confines of our everyday lives.
Yes, the infinite. He uses this beautiful analogy of a drop of water returning to the ocean
Oh, yeah.
to describe our longing to reunite with something vast and eternal.
It's like we're wired for transcendence,
Yeah.
for connection to something larger than ourselves.
Right.
And Alan suggests that surrendering our limited sense of personality, our ego, our I, is a pathway to experiencing that immortality and infinity.
Surrendering the personality. That sounds a bit daunting, to be honest. Does that mean losing our sense of self?
It's not about erasing your individuality,
Okay,
but about recognizing that our ego is just a small part of who we truly are.
I see.
Alan's point is that clinging to that limited sense of self is what keeps us trapped in the illusionary nature of the material world.
So it's the ego that creates this feeling of separation,
Mm-hmm.
of being a lonely individual, adrift in a vast and indifferent universe.
Exactly. And this clinging to the ego fuels our fear of death,
Right.
our anxiety about the unknown.
That makes sense.
Alan contrasts the perishable with the permanent,
Okay.
the mortal with the immortal,
Right.
appearance with reality.
Yeah.
He's urging us to shift our focus from the fleeting and impermanent to the eternal and unchanging.
It's like he's saying that true fulfillment comes from aligning ourselves with that which is timeless and infinite, rather than getting caught up in the constant churn of the material world.
Right.
It reminds me of that feeling you get when you're completely absorbed in a creative activity
Yeah.
or lost in the beauty of nature.
Yeah.
You lose track of time.
Exactly.
You forget your worries.
Yeah.
You feel a sense of connection to something larger than yourself.
That's a perfect example. It's
Yeah.
those moments of transcendence,
Right.
of ego dissolution, that give us a glimpse of what Alan is talking about.
I see.
And he believes that through spiritual practice,
Yeah.
through cultivating selfless love and understanding the nature of the infinite, we can access that state of being more and more fully.
It's a compelling vision for sure. But how does this all translate into action? How do we actually live out these principles in the messy, complicated reality of our everyday lives?
That's where the next chapter comes in. Saints, sages, and saviors, the law of service. Here, Alan really hammers home the importance of action over dogma.
Oh.
He even says, truth cannot be formulated, it is ineffable.
Right.
It can only be experienced by practice.
He's really challenging us to get out of our heads and into our lives,
Yeah.
to embody these principles and our interactions with others. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And the ultimate expression of that truth, according to Alan, is selfless service.
Okay.
He describes the virtuous man, the saint, and the holy man as having increasing levels of self-mastery and love, culminating in a life dedicated to uplifting others.
So it's not just about personal enlightenment. It's about using that enlightenment to make a positive impact on the world.
Absolutely.
I see.
He even talks about the law of love as the driving force behind human evolution
Wow.
and the eventual cessation of suffering.
That's interesting.
It's like he's saying that love isn't just some fluffy emotion.
Right.
It's a powerful force for positive change in the world.
And his perspective on saviors is really interesting, too.
Yeah.
He sees them as manifestations of the impersonal law, free from dogma and focused on uplifting humanity through their example. It's not about worshiping individuals,
Right.
but embodying those same principles of selfless love and service in our own lives.
Right. It's about recognizing the potential for sainthood within each of us. We all have the capacity to embody those qualities of love, wisdom, and compassion.
That's an inspiring thought. But it also raises a question.
Yeah.
If selfless service is so important, how do we know what actions to take? How do we choose the right path of service?
That's a question Alan doesn't explicitly answer, but I think it's something we're meant to grapple with. It's about listening to our hearts, paying attention to the needs of the world around us,
Right.
and using our unique talents and skills to make a positive difference.
That makes sense.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about finding the path that resonates most deeply with our souls.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about aligning our actions with our values, using our unique gifts to serve something larger than ourselves. And that brings us to the final chapter, where Alan ties all of these threads together. The realization of perfect peace.
After all this talk of meditation, self-discipline, selfless love, and service,
Right.
how do we actually get to that state of perfect peace that Alan describes?
Yeah, it feels like we've been on quite the journey with this deep dive into the way of peace.
It has been, hasn't it?
We've explored meditation, self-discipline,
Right.
the battle between self and truth, selfless love, the infinite, and the power of service.
And we've arrived at the culmination of all those concepts,
Okay.
the realization of perfect peace. Alan contrasts the constant turmoil of the outer world with the undisturbed repose that exists at the heart of all things.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It really is.
It's like he's saying that peace isn't something we need to create.
Right.
It's already there, waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. And he reminds us that we all have that inner peace within us.
That's true.
It's not something we have to earn or acquire. It's our natural state. The challenge is accessing it amidst the chaos of daily life.
That resonates with me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we have this wellspring of peace within us,
Yeah.
but we're constantly getting distracted by external noise,
Right.
by our own thoughts and emotions.
Exactly.
So how do we tap into that inner sanctuary, that place of stillness amidst the storm?
Alan suggests that clinging to our desires, fears, and anxieties is what prevents us from experiencing true peace. He differentiates between fleeting worldly peace,
Okay.
which is dependent on external circumstances,
Right.
and the enduring peace of heaven, which is an unshakable inner state.
So true peace isn't about controlling our environment,
Right.
but about mastering our inner world.
Precisely. He even says, "He who conquers himself finds peace."
That's a good one.
It's about recognizing that true happiness and fulfillment aren't found in external possessions or achievements, but in cultivating a state of inner harmony.
It reminds me of that saying, peace comes from within, do not seek it without.
Yes. And Alan encourages us to explore that inner landscape,
Okay.
to withdraw inward and discover that space of peace. He paints such vivid pictures of this inner sanctuary,
I bet.
a place of stillness, serenity, and tranquility.
It makes you want to close your eyes and just breathe deeply for a moment, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the real challenge, as always, is bringing that inner peace into our daily lives. How do we carry that sense of stillness with us amidst the inevitable challenges and distractions we face?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's easy to feel peaceful when you're sitting on a meditation cushion or walking in nature. But what about when you're stuck in traffic, dealing with a difficult coworker,
Right.
or facing a personal crisis?
That's where the real work begins. Alan doesn't offer any quick fixes or easy solutions. He emphasizes the importance of practice, perseverance, and a willingness to continually turn inward,
Right.
to return to that source of peace within. It's a lifelong journey, a process of continual refinement.
So it's not about achieving some static state of perfect peace,
Yeah.
but about cultivating an inner resilience,
Mm-hmm.
an ability to find that center, even amidst the storms of life.
Exactly. And that resilience comes from understanding and applying the principles we've discussed throughout this deep dive. It's about practicing meditation, mastering our thoughts and emotions,
Right.
cultivating selfless love, and dedicating ourselves to a life of service.
Wow, it's quite a comprehensive approach to inner transformation.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to hear what stands out for you, listener.
Yes, what insights will you take with you from the Way of Peace? Perhaps you're inspired to explore meditation more deeply? Or to examine your motivations in light of the battle between self and truth? Maybe we're challenged by the concept of selfless love, or intrigued by the idea of surrendering the personality to experience the infinite.
Whatever speaks to you, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas on your own. Pick up a copy of The Way of Peace and dive deeper into Alan's wisdom. And remember, the real work begins when we step off the meditation cushion and bring these principles into the messy, beautiful reality of our everyday lives.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of inner peace. May you find the stillness within and spread it wherever you go.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Feel free to share your thoughts and insights with us.
Yeah.
And let's continue this exploration together. Until next time, may you find peace, joy, and inspiration on your journey.